no one reached out for Steve Anstrom or Lance Hedlund to even be curious about that.
Don't stand up there and make those type of
May I
comments
finish my
and
5
put words
minutes?
in my mouth.
Mr. President?
I'm not finished, Mr. Webb. As well as when I was asking questions, you did not address them during this public forum.
We have started at the beginning of this month going through committee meetings that are all open.
When I asked you whose name was first on the petition to annex the property at the Dow Street substation and make it part of the city of Jamestown.
Well, if you've heard about Jamestown annexing property from Falconer, you probably know it is a contentious issue. But what exactly is going on? How can Jamestown annex the property of another municipality? Why would Jamestown want that property, and what are the consequences of that annex? What laws are even at play here? Let's take a look. What specifically is your connection to the city of Jamestown as it relates to the annexation?
So as you said, I'm special counsel retained by the BPU to assist the city with the annexation process.
And we actually reached out to the city council and Mayor Sam Teresi's office about this issue, an issue that's important to everyone who lives in both Falconer and Jamestown. And everyone declined to speak. Is this something that they've been advised to do?
Yes, it's my practice that when I anticipate matters that are likely to head to litigation, I typically tell my clients to direct all inquiries from the press to my attention.
Let's throw a quote in here from the Village of Falconer and the Town of Ellicott. They've used the accusation against Jamestown that this is a, quote, money grab, and forcing this through while avoiding public scrutiny. How do you respond to these accusations?
I think accusation is a strong word. Obviously that's the opinion of the town and the village. I don't think anything that I say in response is likely to change those opinions. But what I will offer is, I think the town and the village are concerned about the potential loss of tax revenue. I think those types of financial concerns can lead to misunderstandings, even a certain amount of animosity. What I'll say is that the law of this state specifically authorizes municipalities to annex property located in another municipality. And the law sets forth the public process that must be followed. The law also supports annexation to reduce a municipality's tax liability in order to stabilize municipal utility rates, even in the face of corresponding tax increases in the other affected municipalities. Here, the city is authorizing its statutory rights to annex property. It's followed an open and public process that's established by the law, by the state law for doing so. And it's doing this in part to stabilize utility rates. And that's a result that will benefit not just residents of the city, but residents of the town and the village who are also users of the city's electrical services. So there's benefit to be had by all parties as a result of this annexation.
Is that the central argument then for public good to Jamestown city residents, is the stabilization of rates versus the cut services in Falconer?
Yeah, there are a lot of, reasons that this would be in the public interest, and, those are set forth in our determination, and obviously, they'll be coming up again in our litigation papers. Mm-hmm. I guess I said that to go to the money grab.
Right, right.
It's not intended to be a money grab. It's intended to be a way to allow the BPU to stabilize its rates, which benefit everybody, which benefit all of its users.
How would this stabilize the rates?
Every utility has certain expenses, right? And one of those expenses for most utilities is taxes. And if it can have more certainty, I guess, over, those potential tax increases, which it would if the property was annexed to the city. It would allow the city to, control, and actually there's a whole PSC process that controls how much a municipal utility pays when it's located within its own boundaries. So it would just give it more control over its expenses, so there would be less uncertainty that would then allow them to have a better idea of what their rates were and kind of keep them more stable moving forward.
Are you able to speak about how Jamestown intends to argue that it is for the public good, this annexation?
What the appellate division is going to look at and making that determination is whether or not they'll weigh the benefit or detriment to the annexing municipality, to the property itself, and to the governmental units or units from which the territory would be taken. And typically what they look at is services, what type of municipal services are being provided to the property. Can one municipality do that better than the other? They will look at tax impacts, both positive and negative. So, they'll look at tax impacts to the city in terms of how much money the city would save here versus how much money, or how much the taxes could increase in the town and the village as a result of the annexation. So they'll consider and weigh all of that. I can speak to the process and what the requirements are. So New York State has adopted what's called the Municipal Annexation Law. And you can find that in the General Municipal Law in Article 17. And that municipal annexation law specifically authorizes municipal corporations, such as cities, to annex land from adjoining municipalities. And it also establishes the process and procedures to do so. So annexations are actually done fairly often. They're not rare or uncommon. And it can be undertaken in two ways. So the first way would be as if a property owner or a developer requested the annexation. The second is what we have here, is where the municipality is requesting the annexation. Municipalities often request annexation to deal with utility or park or other governmental property that they own in an adjoining municipality.
Which is the situation we have here, right?
Right, which is the situation that we have here. There's case law out there that basically says under both of those types of circumstances, whether it's a developer / property owner or whether it's a municipality, that annexation can be proper under either of those circumstances, provided the statutory procedures are followed and that the annexation is found to be in the overall public interest. So the first step is the filing of an annexation petition with the governing boards of all of the affected municipalities. That petition has to describe the territory proposed for annexation, state the number of inhabitants of that property, and it has to be signed by a majority of the owners.
And to be clear, when we say population, we're referring specifically to the BPU and not the Village of Falconer, not the village at large.
That question goes to whether or not there are any residents who reside in the area proposed for annexation. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, just to clarify that it isn't a question of the entire municipality gets to vote on this issue. It's only the population on that specific plot that is being suggested to be annexed.
That is correct.
Okay.
So once that petition is submitted to all of the municipalities that are affected, those affected municipalities must notice and hold a joint public hearing. And that was done here. It was done back in June. At the joint public hearing, those affected municipalities hear any testimony and receive evidence and information concerning the petition's compliance with the statutory form and content requirements, as well as any comments directed towards whether or not the annexation is in the overall public interest. that's kind of where we're at. Each of these steps have been followed in accordance with the municipal annexation law. All the municipalities have adopted their orders and filed them with the clerks of all of the other municipalities.
We're just going to round it off with asking you if you have any final remarks you'd like to make on the issue.
No, I mean, I think, you know, kind of what I said before, that what the city is doing here, really there's a larger benefit to be had, even though, you know, I think kind of, like I said, fear of losing tax revenue creates these concerns and these misunderstandings. But the city, I think, is really acting from a place of trying to stabilize its rates for all of its users.
Well, how I first learned, ironically, was a call from Mr. Runsell. I was working at the time. I was here and hadn't gotten the paper. Mr. Runsell had gotten the paper. And he called me and said, "Did you happen to see the article in the paper?" I said, "No." He said, "The city is starting annexation proceeding of the Dow Street Substation." That was my first inkling of any of this. And Mr. Runsell can probably tell you that's how I found out.
I'm getting the impression that that's not typical.
That is not
this,
typical.
This level of...
No. We all have an obligation to our constituents, but there's also an obligation when you are the head of a municipality. We all try to work together and so on. To us, the proper thing would have been, prior to that, receiving a call from either the mayor or the head of city council saying, "Listen, we want to let you know what's going on and this is our intent. We thought before you'd read it in the paper, you might want to know this."
So now that the annexation is moving forward, can we get, from your perspective, just the nuts and bolts of what exactly is going on with what Jamestown wants to do with the substation?
From our perspective, they want to save the tax money and get it back into their city budget, because I think everyone knows their city budget is not real healthy and hasn't been for years. It's dependent on a lot of state kindness, let's put it that way, to get their budget somewhat balanced. And they say the city wants to host the substation instead of having the Village of Falconer, Town of Ellicott host the substation. Well, host is another word for that. That's taxable property. We're not hosting it. It's in our jurisdiction. You own property in our jurisdiction, and you're paying taxes on it. We're not hosting anything. It's in our jurisdiction. So that word host is kind of euphemistic in the using of it. They're going to put money back into the school, I think, in the neighborhood of $80,000. I'm sure I'm not exact on that. And then $80,000 into the city budget. And from the point of view of Mayor Teresi, I mean, I have one of his interviews he did, and if I may paraphrase, and this is his quote: "It's a stipend of about $78,000 a year for each to the school district and the city, and that's mandated by Public Service Commission regulations. The bulk of the savings and the benefit is going to in order to benefit the 20,000 ratepayers of the electric division of the Board of Public Utilities, which are in the city of Jamestown, the Village of Falconer, the Village of Sheridan, and the majority of the rest of the Town of Ellicott. So the public benefit is through a better, stable, better invested in the public utility and to take pressure off of what will inevitably be increasing rates." That's not inevitable. You have to apply to have your rates increased. That's not something you get to sit around the table and get to decide for yourself. So for him to put that out there, it's rather disingenuous to say, this is for the public good. If it was generally for the public good, why wouldn't you have contacted us and let us know what a great public good this is going to be for us, and we could have joined in the parade?
They own that property much like if you owned a house in the Village of Falconer. You're the owner, you pay your taxes.
Okay.
The Jamestown Board of Public Utilities owns the property, they've paid taxes on that property, okay? It is our belief that their primary goal for the annexation, meaning taking that piece of property and putting it into the city, is to relieve them of that tax burden.
Because it's
Okay.
right now it's being paid to the Village of Falconer.
Now to the Village of Falconer, the Town of Ellicott, and Falconer Central School.
Okay.
Right away, that burden is relieved on those entities. By the way, they also pay Chautauqua County. That burden is not relieved, but the burden would be relieved to the village, the town, and the school. It's automatic, by the way, in case that question ever comes up, because it was something we had to look into. If that property is annexed by the city, if that annexation goes through, even though currently that property is in the Falconer Central School District, under general municipal law, when a city has property that's theirs, it automatically goes to the city school district. So basically, it no longer remains in the Falconer Central School District. When it's annexed, it goes to the city school district.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's a loss of over $200,000.
That was my next question: is what kind of a hit are those three entities going to
Am I
take?
correct in that number? Or is it 180?
It's in that neighborhood, 186 or somewhere in that neighborhood.
For the village, it's significant.
Yeah.
For the village, it's
That's 70,000 or so.
and for the school, it's even worse. It's approximately 150,000. So it's well over that. It's $34,000, I think, to the approximately to the town, and maybe it was $137,000 to the school. Which for the school, keep in mind that the way school districts work, unlike municipalities such as Falconer and the Town of Ellicott, every municipality has a tax cap put on us by the state of New York. We can, by resolution, exceed the tax cap. We don't like to, but by resolution, we're allowed to. Schools are not allowed to. They cannot exceed the tax cap. So what do they have to do if they lose $137,000? They have to cut services. Yes, that's the way they have to operate.
So one of the things that I noticed that the court's going to be deciding, just looking at how this works, is the public good, on weighing it on both sides.
Correct.
Can you get specific on what exactly would be cut in the Village of Falconer and the Town of Ellicott that would actually hurt residents of those municipalities?
We're I want to say a small township. We're probably the second largest township in the county, but compared to, let's say, the city of Jamestown, we're a small municipality. So you start asking yourself, well, what services can you cut? Do we want to cut the police department? Actually, my police department's, I want to say, bare bones now. Do we cut our highway department? Our highway department, we're doing this entire town on 6 full-time employees for the highway department. Can I cut that? Probably not. Would we be forced to raise taxes? Yes. Would we be forced to go over the tax cap? Yes, we would be. Should I cut the police department? Don't want to. Would I be forced to? I'd have to take a look at a budget once this thing goes through, because could be the highway department, the police department. We're obligated on our fire districts, as Jim can tell you. The state mandates what we do with fire districts.
Mayor Renzel, can I ask you, have you heard any feedback from your constituents in the Village of Falconer?
Well, I think the best measuring stick of that was the public hearing we had June 12th. 250, 300 people showed up over at the theater in Falconer School, and every person in there who got up and spoke, I think there's 29 people, everybody was against it. And of that number, many of them signed forms indicating they're against it, but did not speak publicly. But
Did they give reasons why?
they said it's a money grab. It's not neighborly. One person said it's a very low point for Jamestown, what they're doing to their friendly neighbors. It's a money grab. No matter what anybody says, it's a money grab, and that's the words of the people speaking at the public hearing, not mine. I agree with those words, however. And the thing that I found surprising and informative and instructive was that meeting's held. If this is something that's for the public good, I would certainly think one person from the city of Jamestown would have stood up and said, this is a great thing for the city of Jamestown and we support it. That did not happen. Now, I mentioned that to the mayor and at numerous meetings that there's 31,000 people in the city of Jamestown, and you couldn't get one to show up to speak in favor of your initiative. And then the mayor retorted with, after speaking to the media, not to me, well, there are people in the city of Jamestown that are in favor of the city council, are in favor of it, and they're city residents. The people on the BPU board were in favor of it. Well, the mayor appoints the BPU board. They serve at his discretion, at his pleasure. And he's a member of the BPU board himself, along with Mr. President Rabb and Councilperson Karuba is a member of the board. So do they have conversations with themselves about what they're going to do and what they're going to present to themselves at the city council? It's kind of a strange situation they have there. Mr. Dulce was quoted in the paper as saying, this annexation isn't going to make or break the city. Now, for me, I take that as my constituents take it as an insult, I take it as an insult. You're going through this whole process. And for the Village of Falconer, that rips the guts out of the Village of Falconer. And you're just saying, well, this isn't really going to make or break the city. It's just something we feel we need to try and pursue. Very, very arrogant way to go about business.
Then, can I ask you both, do you see a potential compromise on the horizon?
I asked about a compromise the last...
You got a laugh over here.
I'm sorry, but we have made requests. Jim and I have been to city council meetings. I don't want to use the term begging, but let's say using the term pleading with city council to reconsider their action in the respect that this is not going to benefit the residents of the Village of Falconer, the residences in the Town of Ellicott, nor the Falconer Central School District, which, under the rules of annexation must benefit all concerned. Please reconsider your actions.
It appeared that both mayors are acting in the best interest of their constituencies. If Jamestown can make up a budget shortfall, well, they're obligated to pursue the matter. However, Falconer and Ellicott are then moved to block this to continue to save funding for their schools and roads. Really, both are pulled by the realities of small-town economics. The possibility was there, and they are both acting exactly as they are compelled. Though this fight may seem irregular, it is actually not unreasonable, given our nation's economic situation. Although it is sad to say that in the most prosperous and wealthiest country the world has ever seen, with a GDP of over $18 trillion, that cities and villages are forced to take such measures. This discussion has got more than heated, and we can lose sight that people understandably want the best for their families. We hope this information helps shed some light on this controversy. But if you have any comments or feel we've missed anything, please email us. Thanks for watching, and keep watching for new videos as we continue to explore our common ground.